What a cracker of a stone, and it almost displayed every technique that I ever show on this channel. We had a quick little bit of slicing, we had some tricky inclusions to get rid of, a little bit of a complex carving. Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Saved potentially the best one till last. Now this came from the offcuts pile that PulitzerOpal sent. Good old Pulitzer sent through 3 offcuts that he got from a fairly large piece of Mintabie. So the first one we cut, we got the nice cross section. We just had a disappointing one with the second one where we found a crack that I just didn't see at all. Don't know how, must have been blind. Just dived into it too quickly, and we're going to avoid doing that on this one because this one, have a look at it. It's got some amazing potential deep down in there. Now wet investigation shows a few major issues and they get highlighted by the light, and we'll switch over to using Riley Gunn's pen light in a second. But this dark inclusion here, this thing ain't going away unless we cut it away, and it goes fairly deep into the stone, basically all the way to that point there and there. That's fully joined across there. So unfortunately this tip is looking like it is gone, but we might be able to slice it. We'll try dremeling down into it a little bit and see if it disappears quickly enough, but I don't think it will. So we're probably going to lose this tip. Either I slice it off or we just grind it away. It's not a lot of carat weight, but what we really want after that is to maximize the rest of the stone, so whatever's left just here. And that's looking like it could be a bit of an oval or a teardrop, more likely, just taking off this little corner here as well. The corner kind of peters out. There's a really good color bar deep down in here, but if we find something better up here, we're going to just stick to that. We'll see how this jelly part here pans out, because otherwise that final color bar does really kick on hard. And because the stone just here worked out quite well on Pulitzer's channel, I'm fairly confident that this one too would face pretty well. So now, to avoid the mistake of the last one, I'll just turn off the light and we'll get the pen light out, Riley Gunn's little pen light here, and I'll have a quick look with you guys to see if there's any other problems. Now if we look just here in the face, there are a few pretty big sand spots there. Because we're grinding through, it's not going to be too much of a problem. You can see here the light almost completely gets cut out as soon as you get into that pocket of what could be like an iron oxide or something. So yeah, you can see that the camera completely loses the light. So it's a big deep one, but there is actually a bigger problem that I'm seeing somewhere. So this is on the side of the stone. If I flip over to the bottom edge here, can you see that right there? Right at the tip of my finger, that's my fingernail glowing. There is a pretty decent crack running across there, which is quite unfortunate. There's actually multiple cracks running along there. That there is just the sand that's following the wave of the color bars, so that's not a huge issue. But I think the biggest issue we're going to have are those hidden little cracks. If I flip the stone over like this, look at that. So where that light is getting through to, you can see there a really distinct line, a really distinct crack, which is not what we want to see. There it is again there, just turning the stone around. So we do have a bit of an issue. So turning the light back on again, you can kind of see it. So this is where a torch shows really well. This is the stone dry and you still can't see it very well, but there's a crack running in there and a crack lower running across here. So that is all around this bottom corner, which we do need to taper off anyway. So it might be that we're losing this and we're losing this. And then there's still a fairly decent oval in there. So the good news is we were going to take that off anyway. The bad news is that those cracks could propagate further, and we can only find out by trimming away. So let's spin up the Dremel and we'll nip off this corner and we'll try to nip off this end as well. And see what we're left with. Try to find a color bar, polish it up, hopefully a big win. Alright, the rough plan. I've just sketched on a few little markings here. Those little X's you see are the jelly opal in the face. We're going to trim those down, and the black is where we're going to cut all the way through. So those areas are the areas that have the inclusions, the jelly opal, and the cracks. So all of that has to go no matter what. So we'll do those first. Here you can see on that bottom edge where that crack is, the texture really highlights it because it seeps into the crack and then you can see it very clearly. It's almost as good as the torch, but maybe not quite as good. And there we've just chipped, and I've just held the burr at an angle, trying to convince the thing to break in that direction, which worked out perfectly fine. So flying along with the 80 grit sintered diamond, just checking that corner to make sure there were no other cracks that were going to give us any problems, so that didn't happen. And then I worked on this tip just to see if it was worth keeping at all. And I'm getting close to the color bar there and it is starting to shine through, so I decide I want to keep that. And instead I pivot now and work on this area here, which if you remember has that deep inclusion. There it is there. That's not the texture continuing in. That is actually that inclusion. So if I flash forward, you'll see that's what it looks like when the inclusion is out. And you know what, there's some good opal there. So what I decided to do is get the electroplated diamond disc out, and we're just going to give it a quick slice off because it's actually much faster than grinding all that away anyway. So we'll just go through, and remember the technique for this is just to swipe it across the surface like you're doing a credit card transaction. So getting right down to the bottom edge, you can go all the way through, there's no problem there, but here I decided to pull up just short and then just snap it with the fingers. Click, and it is gone. Very easy, very quick. And then just back to the 80 grits into diamond, tidy that edge up and move on. Make sure all the other edges are kind of trimmed down. Here we're focusing on that jelly opal. We want to bring the face all the way down. All these crosses should disappear, and you'll see that it is mega fast. This is not sped up footage. This is 100% just original speed, and you'll see this will make short work of it. So we're just going to take this all the way down until we start getting that color peeking through, and then I'm looking at those jellier sections in the middle and thinking we're going to try to get rid of some of that quickly with the 80 grits into diamond, as well as on that bottom corner where the crack was. I want to bring that corner in, but I also want to get rid of some of the potch. And here you can see the carving plan. That bottom end doesn't really matter, just need to cut that back up. And the back tail end I just want to take off a little bit because it's a bit potchy back there. And then in the face there you're seeing the lines where I want to kind of carve away that jelly opal while leaving behind any of the good color bar. So that's the carving plan. 80 grits into diamond just until we start getting that color to the surface. It's way too slow to switch over to something else at this point, especially the 600, and I'll typically go from a really coarse one, whether it's the 80 or 120 or something, then I go to the 600. Here you can see I'm just getting rid of it all and then just jumping over to the 600 and just working on the whole surface. So at this point you do want to hit everything. The 280 grit Nova does wear out very quickly, and if you're just going from an 80 grits into diamond straight to the 280, you will wear that burr out so quickly. So just go to the 600. Here we can be pretty carefree and do the edges as well. The 80 grit would shatter the edges, so save that for the 600. And then I've just painted the surface with a Sharpie, just so that I can have a really good coverage of the 280 grit Nova. This is by far the most vital step in any of the opal carvings. So you have to make sure you get this one right. You should be getting rid of all of this black texture. And you shouldn't even see little speckles of it left, because that means there's little pits that you've missed and you have to keep going with that 280. Don't worry though, even after doing this for so many years, you're still going to miss spots. Here you can see I missed all the high spots actually because I spent so much time focusing on the valleys. They're typically the hardest spots to make sure you've got no imperfections, but of course I've glossed over and missed some of the high spots. So just got to go back through and do it again. I actually did that another time. So I actually texted 3 times in total. And then you can see here, we've got the Nova points. Here I'm not using the text, so I'm pretty confident that I don't miss anything on these ones. So 600, 1200, 3000. And for Mintabie Opal in particular, I've now switched from going cerium oxide to my aluminium oxide. Because of the hardness of the aluminium oxide, I find that it acts a lot faster on Mintabie because it is a bit of a harder opal. So it gets rid of it a little bit faster, and the quality of the polish in the end with the 0.3 micron aluminium oxide actually comes out pretty similar to the cerium oxide. So I'm quite happy with the finish of it, and it might be a little bit more expensive, the powder, but it does work very well. And for Mintabie, it is now my favorite. So Mintabie and Boulder, I'm just using aluminium oxide these days. What a cracker of a stone, and it almost displayed every technique that I ever show on this channel. We had a quick little bit of slicing, we had some tricky inclusions to get rid of, a little bit of a complex carving, so you can see the face is pretty undulating, pretty uneven. It's almost like there's an indent here, and it kind of comes in here, both sides of that blue streak and one across here. So it's a little bit uneven through there, which is really nice. The edge I've kept fairly even. There's a high spot just over here. There's another bit of a high spot just over here. So when it comes to bezel setting that's going to be a little bit tricky, but we'll get around it. And yeah, not as shy a Mintabie as I thought it was going to be. After a little bit, I was getting pretty worried that the center wasn't going to have any color in it, but it ended up getting there in the end, which is really nice. Now I haven't done anything with the back really, so the back you'll see here, basically all I'm going to do is take this up to the flat lap and just trim right along here. So right along that edge, just going to trim it down. I like to do this at the end because you don't know what the face is going to end up as when you're carving. You're not just standard cabbing, so you really got to really do the back last just so that you know what you want, because it's turned out I've taken this end down a little bit. This end's still pretty high. Because of this chip that came out, we're going to start from here and we're going to taper down a little bit to level out the front of this stone. So it's going to sit kind of like this, and it's going to be cut from here down towards that bottom edge. Otherwise, right now it's sitting pretty proud up the top part here, and we don't like that. We want it to kind of sit somewhere like this and then bezel set. It's hard to show all the color without the glare getting in the way. But yeah, I'm lucky. I've saved the best little offcut that PulitzerOpal sent through. The man, the myth, the legend. So this other one's completely done. I've got another one which is not a failed attempt, but it hasn't worked out quite as well as I would like. So that one's still got a little bit more work to do. I should mention, so here's the chip that came off here. We knew it was going to happen. We saw the crack before we even started. And one thing that I'll mention with this is there was a very distinct reason why I came at it with the sintered diamond in the way that I did. I came at it down like this because I really wanted to encourage this thing to fracture in the correct direction. So I wanted to crack straight downwards. I could see on this other side here that it was wrapping around. There was that light kind of faint potch, and I thought that was where the crack was going to propagate. But still, just to be safe, I did attack with the sintered diamond in a very particular angle, and that just, yeah, popped straight off, which I was very happy about, because it wasn't a huge chip and it didn't go up towards the face of the stone, and it didn't go in towards the center of the stone either. It just went straight out the bottom, and that's ideal because that's all going to get trimmed off anyway with the flat lap. And now my fingers are wet. But yeah, after all that work, little offcut, you can really get something out of even small offcuts like this, though this one's not too small. After I trim that back down, I can measure the carat weight, and it's still going to be a pretty large stone, definitely a pendant, unless someone wants the world's chunkiest ring. And very happy, because Mintabie rarely works out. Sure, it was a little bit of a cheat code because PulitzerOpal had already cut a major stone out of this part, and I saw how that faced, and this one faced a little bit similar, but the curvy, wavy color bar was the biggest trick. With carving, you can scoop into it and you can get something out of it, and you've avoided having just this big dead pot center, which is really nice. Really great stone and a lot of fun. I could actually watch it dancing like this for a while, but we don't have time for that. I've got to chuck this one in here with its brother or sister, and then I've still got to finish off the third one. At least we've got two decent out of 3. And I've still got the little triangle piece from this one that we sliced off as well, but as you can see here, it is pretty small, but pretty mighty. It's got some color in there if I take that little part off the top. So who knows, maybe a 1/4 carat triangle sitting there. Maybe even less than that, like a 0.2. One day when I want to tackle a really small stone, I'll do that, because it can be pretty frustrating, but this one does have a bit of flash in there, so it should reveal nicely. But until the next video, I'll see you guys later, and like always, good luck with the carving.